Right, what's happening, people, and welcome back to the Joey Knight podcast. Now, I just want to set the tone on this video straight away because my inbox went completely crazy yesterday after the match, and I get it. We did very well, but if you're expecting me to get completely gassed up because we managed to 1-1 draw at home against the side who, let's not forget, didn't even qualify for Champions League football last season, you are absolutely right. Chelsea are back, and here to help me discuss yesterday's game is a man who is very quickly becoming a fan favourite of this channel. It's Josh Aveste. Josh, how's it going, mate?
It's good, mate. I'm chuffed. I'm buzzing. Yesterday was so good. I'm buzzing. The season started again. We've got football back. We've got Chelsea back.
Mate, I know. I can't believe it. At this point in the video, I would usually be asking you to hit the subscribe button if you are not already. And at the end of this video, if you want to do that, feel free. But I'm going to ask another favour of you today. In the description to this video is the link to Josh's channel. I want you to head over there, hit the subscribe button so that you can see all the content that he is banging out on a weekly basis. So let's get into the video. Josh, do the rest of the league need to be worried about Chelsea after yesterday's performance?
Are we getting a bit ahead of ourselves? But yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Like I was chuffed with the performance yesterday, and I just thought it's so nice to have like a brand new team. Like last season, bloody hell, it was hard, wasn't it, at the end? Like, it was getting a little bit sick. I was getting a bit sick and tired of seeing Chelsea play.
You was thinking about turning down kickoff appearances last season.
I was thinking about turning down the season ticket, to be fair. And I was like, do I actually want to keep going if it's going to be like this? But like, just a breath of fresh air. But I tell you what, it was a bit surprising yesterday, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, we get into that because the first thing straight away, so me and my friend, we always watch a game together, right? My mate Alfie. And we always, straight away, he'll go to me, lineups out, and I go, right. And it's just like a little, what do you call it? A tradition, yeah? I'll always go, right, and I'll try and go through every player. Every now and again, I'll get one right. Last season, I never got any right because Lampard or, you know, Potter, whoever was there, was constantly tinkering with that lineup. And I was expecting, do you know what? Out of 11 positions on the pitch, I'm easy getting 9 of these right today. I didn't even get the formation right. We started with a 3.
Yeah.
Which was, it shouldn't be surprising because anyone that's watched Chelsea to the extent that we have know that Chelsea historically, at least recently, have always been best of a 3. We've always been best of a 3 rather than a 4. But the thing that surprised everyone, including myself, was that we've played a 4 consistently through pre-season. We've consistently looked good through pre-season playing a 4. So that, for me, was a little bit of one where I was scratching my head going in. Obviously, seeing the Sassy start as well. You know, he was brought in after the last game of pre-season, so that wasn't something we was expecting. What was your first thoughts when you saw that lineup?
I was just, I couldn't quite believe that we were going for the 5. We played 45 minutes, by the way, in pre-season with a 5 at the back. So like to get that team sheet, I was just confused. And you were saying about the squad formation. We've built a whole squad basically around 4 at the back, haven't we?
Yeah.
So like when I saw that team sheet, I felt exactly the same as you. But then I was thinking about it and I'm going, Liverpool are very good with their wing play, right? They push people up and they get Salah on one wing, Diaz on the other. They're incredibly fast and they get in behind like back fours. Like that's basically what their strength is, right? So I kind of thought, like I was like originally shocked, but then when I thought about it and I actually saw like the first 10 minutes, I kind of got it. But then I'm thinking like, are we going to see this throughout the season? Is this going to be like a regular thing? Like, do we have to play a back 5 with Thiago Silva? Like a lot of people have said over and over again, Thiago Silva can't now play at the age of 39 in a back 4.
It's a hard one because I completely understand that because of his age, it's maybe a valid point. Without being too sort of pessimistic of other people's opinions, I do sort of think, well, what are you basing that on? Can you name me a game when we've played a 4 when Thiago Silva's had a stinker? Because, as I say, look, maybe someone can prick my memory and I'm being oblivious to this, but I can't remember one. I can't remember a game when we played a back 4 when Thiago Silva hasn't had a good game, you know what I mean? So it's a bit of a weird one. One thing that I sort of think, and I'm not comparing Mauricio Pochettino's tactics to Gareth Southgate, but you know the way how sometimes when England will play a team that they perceive to be right up against it, they'll move to a 3. Some people call it a 5, some people call it a 3, but we know what I'm on about. They'll move to that system. When they'll play a team when they feel that they should have the rub of the green, control of the match, fair share of the possession, they'll often play a 4. And I do think that, not in the exact way, but we may see those 2 formations sort of flipped between not even from game to game, sometimes from attack to defence and vice versa.
Did you see Poch came out after the game and he said we were playing a 4 in the second half?
Yeah, in the press
and I was
conference.
just like, what? I was watching that and I was like, I can kind of see what you're saying. Like Colwell went into like a left back kind of position. But as a wide centre-back on the left-hand side, he kind of occupies that space anyway. That's kind of like the way it goes. But then I didn't really feel like Chilwell was a winger. Like, he was very advanced, but he wasn't like a left winger advanced. You know what I mean? So like, I love the mind games of like Poch there. Like, I love that now managers are going to be thinking, oh, I don't know whether they're going to be playing 5 defenders. I don't know whether they're going to be playing 4. And also, when you're talking about not being able to predict a lineup, that is what you need to do now in the modern game. Because otherwise, people just know what you're going to play and they set up against that formation. And so like, that's what Pep has done so well. Arteta does it every week as well. And so for Poch to do that, I'm kind of quite glad. It's going to be, you're going to be screwed though, because you're never going to be able to predict the lineup.
I know, yeah. But if it helps us get a few wins over the line, I'm not going to be too. I'm not going to take the loss too hard there. What I would say, 20 minutes in to that game, right? Around 20 minutes in, Salah sets up Luis Diaz and they get the first goal. But even before that goal went in, I'm sort of sat there thinking, I'm having flashbacks of last season here. I'm not really liking what I'm seeing too much. And then it was almost when the second goal got disallowed, it was like the courage of the team and the momentum just shifted all of a sudden. And to use a little boxing analogy, when I was fighting, right, I used to sometimes go and I'd spar like a top amateur or you know, a pro that hadn't had many fights or something like that. And there was often times when I thought, oh, I'm completely out of my depth here. This fella's just too good for me. And all it would take, and sometimes it would just land in my lap and he'd give me a punch on a plate. I'd land one shot. And then all of a sudden, it's like your confidence just skyrockets and it's like, right, I belong now. I belong here now. I'm not overwhelmed by the occasion. And I do genuinely think that when that second goal was ruled out, that's what sort of happened to us in that moment, because it did look shaky in that first 20 minutes or so, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I was super worried. We were very open at the back, weren't we? Like, when you're talking about the 3 centre-backs, I felt that they were pulled quite wide, like the 2 sort of like wide centre-backs. I always felt that there was sort of like a gap between them and Silva, when really, as a 3, you want them to be quite close together. And you saw that with the first goal. Like, Salah comes in from the right-hand side, cuts in and basically like does Colwell, quite frankly. Then it goes round Thiago Silva. He probably could have got a foot on it and he pulled out, it looked like. And then Disasi for me was the worst one out of that. Like, he basically left his man.
Yeah.
Reece, I'm not sure whether you blame him on that. He was quite far advanced and he's the wing back, so I don't necessarily blame him. And it's harsh to blame a guy on his debut, and that's why like I'm not going to dwell on it too much and I'm not going to sort of call him out too much. But he definitely lost his man there. But when you're talking about how we then went on and recovered the game, that's elite mentality. And you've got to think about that. We've got a squad of average age 22. And yeah, we had Thiago Silva, but everyone else in that team is like 26 and under, other than Sterling, right? And to get like a squad together and to say, no, we're not going to go keep our heads down. We could have been 2-0 down, and to bomb on and then get that goal back. Like, that is really encouraging for the rest of the season, if you think about it, because we are going to go a goal down in some games and we've got to be able to sort of like come back and move forward. So I was really encouraged by that, mate.
I thought it would have been so easy yesterday to start feeling a bit sorry for ourselves and almost looking forward to the West Ham game and thinking, well, look, you know, baptism of fire here, straight in against Liverpool. And one thing I would say is when you look at stuff, it's very hard until you have context, yeah? So until there's 10, 12, 15 games played of this season, you don't really know. But I've got a sneaky feeling that we could have just played yesterday, the team that end up pushing City really, really close this year. I know they're going to have teething issues. Look, it looks like they're getting the Lavia deal over the line and whatnot. But I actually thought that Liverpool played well. I actually looked at them early on and I thought, God, you're top heavy. That goes without saying. You're very top heavy. But you are a scary prospect when you're at it. So the fact that we were able to pull ourselves back into that game, and let's be honest, for a good hour of that game, started, I don't want to say dominating, but we were very much in control of that game for a good hour or so, and we sort of, you know, had them limited to counter-attacks and whatnot. Individually, performances from what we saw yesterday, and this is a funny thing, right? Yesterday is the epitome for me of why football divides opinion, because there were so many players yesterday that you could come away with a half-full mentality or a half-empty mentality. The Sassy, he scored the goal. But let's be honest, he didn't have a great match early on, right? Early on, he grew into the game 100%. Another player that you could definitely say grew into the game was Conor Gallagher. Early on, I was thinking, there was a couple of players in that first half, and I don't want to put a negative spin on it, and this is why I'll get this out of the way now, because we are about to go a lot more positive with it. But Conor Gallagher and Sterling in the first half, there were times when I was thinking, mate, what's going on here, sort of thing. But as I say, we massively grew into the game, and that shows a tremendous amount of character when we're moving forward now. So who would be your standouts? And I don't think anyone's going to get a prize for guessing who the main standout in the game is, but who would be your standouts from yesterday's performance?
Do you know what? My man of the match wasn't the man of the match that everyone gave. My man of the match was Chilwell, because I just, like, the whole way through pre-season, we have seen him bomb on down the left-hand side, and he's always been an attacking left-back, hasn't he? Like, I love it. I actually really, really rate Chilwell, and I actually think he's been, let down really by the England side in that he hasn't been starting. Like, for me, he is better than Shaw, and I'll take the heat for any Man United fans that believe otherwise, because I just think Chilwell is better. But he could have scored a hat-trick, mate. Couldn't he? He had the offside goal. He had a couple of other really, really good chances. I thought he was quality. And every time he got the ball, you felt like something was going to happen.
Sometimes in football, the things that you need to value just as highly are things that you don't see, right? And you know when Cancelo used to bomb forward, and whatever, you used to think he's amazing, isn't he? But then there'd be spaces left in behind very, very often, yeah? The thing you didn't see yesterday is Chilwell's amount of attacking prowess let us down defensively also. And this is why sometimes they say actions speak louder than words, yeah? Well, Chilwell's words yesterday matched his actions, because we saw Chilwell talk about what pre-season? Fitness. Look at Chilwell yesterday. Chile was bombing up and down that wing, and he looked like he was the fittest player on the pitch. I mean, he had a special performance yesterday. For me, it's got to be Enzo Fernandez. I know it's a popular one because everyone spoke about it, but again, right? This is why, and we're going to get onto this Caicedo deal later on, but this is why it's so encouraging to know that we got this Caicedo deal in, right? Because when you look at what Enzo did yesterday, and a few people have touched on this, I think me and you have even spoke about this before, we sort of looked at Enzo last season and thought, he didn't put a foot wrong, but I don't think you're being utilised that well. I really don't, because you were sat in that holding midfield role, and you were given a lot. Football's progressing, formations are progressing, and individual roles are progressing. And when we look at a holding midfield role, we think Kante, Makelele, And what we don't realise is sometimes now a player can play in that position but not have the responsibilities of players that have gone by that have played in that position, like a Makelele. So we don't necessarily need Enzo in that pivot to play a Makelele role. It just means he's positioned there. But actually the work he does in progressing the ball up the pitch, keeping the game ticking over. And yesterday, would you agree with me? Best game we've seen from Enzo in a Chelsea shirt.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that was because he was a more advanced mate. We got abuse, by the way, from some of the comments saying that Enzo should be a DM only, right? And we were saying that Enzo should be more attacking. And I've even said he could even play as a number 10, right? I feel he's that good and that able in the attacking third to make a difference, right? But I thought when we unlocked him, and we actually saw that yesterday, some of the passes he was doing, some of the link-up play, the one-touch play. Mate, he is very potent in the final thirds. And you've just, as you say, you've got to unlock him there. So what I think Poch is going to end up doing is having Caicedo at the base of the midfield and then potentially having 2 8s as opposed to having a 10 now. Because we've lost Nkunku for, quite frankly, half the season, we're going to probably play a 4-3-3. And then if Enzo is one of those ones that is very attacking and he can get into the final third, I think that's actually going to be really good for Chelsea.
He lit it up in that role yesterday in terms of what we're talking about as in getting into that final third. There was that one pass, right? It was just one pass where I went, oh my God. And it was the little deft touch that went onto Chilwell. And it was so good that Chilwell didn't even realise it was coming to him. It came across and it's like the angle's so tight that Enzo can't get there to Chilwell. He opens up his foot and he almost uses his foot as just something to deflect the ball off. It goes to Chilwell. And as I say, it was that good. Listen, Chilwell won't mess it up next time.
Should have scored.
Yeah, he should have. He should have. Yeah. But I don't think he realised the quality that was coming there from Enzo's pass. And that completely split a defence open. Yeah. And in a game of fine margins, you need a player like that. You really do need a player like that. And I'm very happy. Listen, I get a lot wrong, but I did say before this match that we need to see a big performance from Enzo. And at the end of the day, if Chelsea didn't perceive Enzo Fernandez as being a player that could completely transform games for them, they wouldn't have put down the 100-odd million they spent on him. So that's really, really positive. And look, it's only going to get better when Caicedo comes in. Who else in that team yesterday? Because I thought that Reece James's performance as captain yesterday was pretty much as good as I could have hoped for, barring him scoring a screamer from outside the box or something like that. His delivery, he just gets it on point every time, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. You and me are like completely aligned. I've got a list of guys that I'm shouting out. I had Enzo number 1, Chilwell number 2, and I had Reece number 3. So he's come in, right? He's a 24-year-old guy. He's taken the captain's armband, which has an immense amount of pressure around it, right? Like, it's not easy for a young guy to come in, take that, and then also express himself in the way that we know Reece can down that right-hand side. And I thought he was quality. And again, we've seen him used in a different role than he has been in a back five before. Like, I didn't see him as aggressive as he has been. Like, we used to see Reece in the penalty area, didn't we, as a wing back? And I feel like he was a little bit smarter. He had to tuck in at times because Chilwell was bombing on so much. And I just feel he's quality, mate. And a lot of people were very worried about whether he was injured or not. And Poch came out afterwards and just said he was tired. And mate, honestly, the relief is immense. But then also Gusto came on and looks really good as well. So that right back position is one of our strongest areas now.
That's a huge, huge plus because I spent all last season banging on about the fact that when you take Reece James out of the team, we are so noticeably worse. Yeah. So to have Malo Gusto come on there and show that, mate, all right, he's not the exact same standard as Reece, but my God, he's a good deputy, And Reece is unlucky yesterday to not have come away with 2 assists. And if he can play to half of the quality that he played to yesterday, he will bag a lot of assists this season. Definitely. Because that little link-up play worked well there. And this is where I want to touch on Raheem Sterling. Raheem Sterling is a player that completely, and I mean completely, divides opinion, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Listen, as well as you do, I always see it with a gauge with the comments. And I would say that I get a lot of negative comments about Raheem Sterling. Here's my take on it, and then I'm going to swing it back over to you. Raheem Sterling, for me, makes a lot of mistakes. He also does a lot of things right. When I say about football progressing, it happens with formations, it happens with roles, and it also just happens with individual players. And sometimes I feel like we will look at Raheem Sterling and judge Raheem Sterling in a way that maybe we had judged him when he was up and coming at Liverpool, when he had first moved to Manchester City. And it's maybe a little bit unfair because we're wanting to see that flair player that can beat men and whatever, and that's not his game anymore. There are times when he holds on for it too long. My analysis on Raheem Sterling is a lot better when he doesn't have time to think. When he has time to think about what he's doing, that's when I do understand why a lot of people feel that he can slow the game down and, not make the pass that maybe other people would be expecting him to. So what did you think of Sturbo's performance yesterday?
I'm in 2 minds myself. I know you're talking about the comments being unsure. Like I go game by game. And I have moments within games where I rate him and then I'm not sure at all.
That's
and
exactly
this is the
what I'm
hardest
like,
thing, isn't it? Like, and for a 28-year-old who's on 350 grand a week, I'm expecting better from him, right? And he needs to be grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck now and actually pushing us on. And I felt yesterday that he started really slowly, and I feel that in time he's going to get ousted out of the team. And maybe that's going to come next summer now as opposed to this summer. But I feel like it's coming sooner rather than later now. Like, if we're going to sign Elise, and then we're talking about bringing Angelo back in next season. He's gone on loan, hasn't he? So we're bringing him back in. I think then maybe you don't even need to sign anyone else, and then Sterling can go and move on to another club, maybe to Saudi, even get the big money in there. But look, I think let's give it, like, it's not all negative with Raheem. I think yesterday, as you say, he had very, very good moments, and he could have had assists. And I remember the one where he was on the byline, cut it back, and that could have been a goal as well. That was in the first half, like around 20 minutes or so. And that was a very good move. But for me, the reason why I'm not sure on him is, like you say, the speed of the game. We've got so many attacking players now that will go and beat a man, that will raise the pace of the game. And I feel like more often than not, Raheem is slowing it down. And that's why I get a bit infuriated by watching him. But I feel he's going to start more games than not this season just because he's experienced. He'll link up with the striker. And like, we just need someone that's above the age of 23, mate. We just need that in a team. Like, you need those sort of like mature heads.
I do want to see Sterling on the pitch. I just don't know if I want to see him starting. I think he's a player that around that 65-minute mark can be really, really vital for us and can be utilised really well. Starting off, I'm just not too sure about it.
I don't know if I do want to see him starting on the pitch. Like I really rate Madueke. I really rate Mudryk. And I think like Elise coming in, I really rate him as well. So like for me, like those three players are probably better than him.
When we saw Mudryk and Maatsen come on yesterday, albeit brief cameos, we did see the dynamic change and we did see more intensity. And you know what? Stats don't always prove everything, because if you look, you might look at it and you might go, well, actually, their maybe past success rate or dribbles past or whatever might not be up. But it was the directness and in the intensity that we saw that impressed me. And actually, you know, it was Liverpool that were holding on for a draw in the end.
Yeah.
The last player we'll touch on before we both do lock in our man of the matches here, Nicholas Jackson. I thought he had a really good game, right? I thought that he showed that, all right, he's not wearing the number 9 shirt, but we all know he is the number 9. And I thought that it showed that it wasn't going to weigh too heavy on him. I mean, coming up against Konate, who was on form yesterday, and Van Dijk, who had a solid game, you don't really get an easier game. There was one point at the end when any other striker I've seen playing for Chelsea in sort of recent couple of seasons would have tried to cut back, maybe let it off or whatever. He just ran straight through on goal, had the shot. On another day, he might have scored that. And as I say, like, we can't be too hard on people because it's a game of fine margins. We knew that before the game. So as much as our expectations can change and whatnot, there was only one thing that I was starting to think about Jackson yesterday. Although we've seen him bang a few goals in pre-season, I was starting to think, okay, have we got a goal scorer here? Or have we got someone who's going to be a really important player, but is more in the mould of Olivier Giroud? So he might pop up with some scream. I mean, if you, 20 years from now, if I show my son highlights of Olivier Giroud and say this was the best player in the world once upon a time, he'll go, yeah, you know, he wouldn't question it because you could show some highlights of Giroud and whatnot. But do you know what I'm saying by that? Have we got an all-out goal scorer, or have we got someone more in the mould of Olivier Giroud who's going to complement the players around him really, really well?
I think if you're just watching the game yesterday, you might say that he's like the Giroud type where he's bringing other players in. But if you factor in pre-season and you factor in the way that he was playing and you factor in his obvious quality and all of his strengths, the pace that we saw even in the 93rd minute when he's running at the Liverpool defence and gets through and beats one of the fastest players in the league in Konate, as defenders go. Like, for me, mate, he is the dogs. Like, he's very, very good. And I think you can understand why Chelsea fans are a little bit like, they're not going to go too crazy on Jackson too early because we've been burnt with number 9s before. And I'm actually chuffed that he hasn't taken the number 9, by the way. I'm glad he's wearing 15, and that's also Drogba's original number. So, you know, we're loving the legacy here. But yeah, like, I just thought he was really, really impressive. The pace that he's showing, the ability to drive past people. A lot of people are talking about his lack of strength, which I just didn't see. I thought he looked really strong and like composed in the sort of the tackle area. So like, mate, I just think we should be really bullish on him, and I think we should respect him. And also, the other thing that we need to talk about here now is, do we actually need to sign another number 9?
No.
Is it as simple as that?
Not for me, no. I just don't think we disrupt it too much.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we are going to cover transfers in a video that will be dropped later on this week. Obviously, this video is coming out today. And we'll touch on that then, and we'll speak about it in a bit more depth. But for me, I just don't feel like we need to. I think we've got enough to see us through until January at least. And also, you know, what comes into it here is, in times gone by, in recent history anyway, we've sort of been thinking, maybe we need to get someone in. As much as I love Frank Lampard, I don't really anything Potter, but we didn't have an elite level manager there. And I just think that Pochettino can make these boys tick no matter what. You know, Brower's coming back. Let's not forget, I was high on Brower. It just so happens that Nicholas Jackson's coming and you're just like, oh my God, I love this boy. Do you know what I mean? But listen, it's a nice problem to have. I think we have got a bit of strength and depth there, you know? Yeah. So I personally wouldn't go in for one. And you know what? If there was a massive standout, obvious choice, if Harry Kane had, you know, put his flag in the ground and said, I want to work with Poch again, of course, okay, that changes the dynamic of it. But for the here and now, no, I think we'll stick with what we got.
I totally agree. And people keep sleeping on Breyer. When he comes back, and obviously he's got an injury, like, that's why he's not playing in the squad. That's why we've not seen him in pre-season. Like, when he's back and fully fit, we're going to have 2 very good number 9s, young number 9s that are hungry. And I think we're set. So I agree with you. I wouldn't disrupt it at all. And I'm so glad we're not getting Vlahovic in. Like, we could. That's a bullet dodged for me.
To cap it off, Josh, man of the match for you?
I would go Chilwell personally. I thought he was absolutely immense. He was vice captain when Reece came off as well, and I just thought he didn't put a foot wrong. He missed a couple of chances. Fair enough, you're going to do that in the first game of the season, but I thought his overall play was super, super impressive.
Chilwell's leadership qualities,
Yeah.
very, very impressive when you see that he was the first one straight over to Disasi. Yeah. They look like they got a good little relationship. He actually revealed in the post-match interview that Chile said to him that he was going to score today. That's the sort of stuff that I like to see from my team. I like to see it's a feel-good vibe and it carries on. I am going to go with Enzo. I'm going to agree with most of the pundits. You know, I think 117 touches, which I think was the most apart from Thiago Silva in the match, who you'd obviously expect to have a lot of touches running that sort of back line. 92 passes. I think if you look at the player in midfield for Liverpool that had the most passes, it was McAllister with, I think, around 42 or something like that. Also, worth factoring in that Enzo's pass success rate was a lot better. So, yeah, I would go Enzo Fernandez, and long may it continue. Long may it continue, because if we see 70% of that performance against West Ham, I think we're coming away with a good 3-0 win or something like that. So we're going to preview that match. But we get onto that in the next video. As for this video, one more time, a lot of you lot are getting in my comments saying they love the link up with me and Josh. So I'm sure a lot of you are, especially the ones that comment that. But if you are not already, Josh's channel is linked in the description to this video. Head over there, hit the subscribe button on that, and we will see you all in the next video.